Hey, hello again. We are back for week 5 of our postage stamp quilt sew along. So I know we're at a weird angle again today. I'm trying to figure out a better way to do this, but for now, this it is what it is. So last week we worked on pressing our panels, and they may not have stayed on 100%. That's where the glue comes in to kind of help do it. This week we're going to be sewing. I've already sewn one so that I can show you how to do something in just a minute. But we are going to start sewing this together. So what we're going to do is, because we've already pressed these on and because they print them just a little bit bigger. Remember last week we talked about they printed them just a little bit bigger than your actual squares so that when you go to fold them and sew them, it lays nicer. So on the dotted line, the line between your squares, and it does not have to be perfect. We're just going to fold. It should fold very easily. And so you just want to make sure you're going to lay it out and make sure that everything is laying nice and is lined up the way that you want it lined up. I am using this little machine today and not using my foot pedal. So I'm going to use the little button on the front of the machine. So, but it's going to work just fine for what we are trying to do. So now I'm just going to stitch. You want your 1/4 of an inch all the way down this seam here. You can see it there. We're going to 1/4 inch all the way down. The thing is that because the interfacing is holding it together, we don't have to worry about lining it up just perfectly. We just want to fold it on that line, and then we're going to start to sew. Probably going to go part of the way down. Then I'm going to stop and make sure that my next little section is lined up correctly, that everything is playing nice. I'm just going to go all the way to the end here. And if your seam is not exactly 1/4 of an inch, it's okay. You just want to be consistent with it. Okay. This machine does not have its own cutter. So now I've got it sewn all the way down this seam. So when I open it up, you can see that it's sewn in one direction here. All of this is already sewn. Now I want to go the same direction on every single one of these lines. So I've already done both ends, which you will work from one end to the other. I'm going to sew all these other ones in the middle, and then we're going to come back. Okay. Okay, so I got them all sewn going this one direction, as you can see, but be careful when you're looking at things when you're folding them over, because a couple of these didn't catch correctly, just these two right here. So I am going to grab my seam ripper and rip those out and fix them, and then I'll show you what we're going to do next, okay? Be right back. Okay, so I fixed those couple of spots. If you don't have a good seam ripper, get you one. I'm going to be posting some of these here shortly that my dad makes. But now that we have gone across, I moved my machine out of the way. We've gone across all the way on all of them. This is where you want to snip the interfacing. So I will tell you where I did have to rip those out. It's not the end of the world. You do want to be a little bit more careful because of the interfacing. If it tears, it's still usable. It's not No, it's not going to completely crater on you. Just be careful and try not to catch the interfacing when you're ripping out. But if you do, just kind of lay it back in place. Again, it's not the end of the world. So what we're going to do now is we want to snip these so that when we sew the other direction, we can alternate the seams and they kind of are going to lay flat, more flat, and that kind of thing. So right here, you can see where this other seam is going to go. And we want to clip right here between these two rows, but we don't want to clip past the other stitch line. So you just want to clip up to, and I know this is going to be kind of hard to see, but see here, now it goes opposite directions. I don't know how well you can see that. You can see it okay. So now it goes opposite directions so that when we go the other way, we're going to fold these and lay them out. So now when I lay this down, this one's going to go this way. This one's going to go this way. Oh, y'all can't see that. So these are going to go opposite directions and it's just going to lay nicer and give the illusion of those locked seams. And it's not going to be extra bulky on these corners. So this is going to help reduce some of the bulk, that kind of thing. So you're going to do that for literally every one of these intersections, all the way across, all the way. This is not absolutely necessary. If you want to skip this step, you can. I have done it on a different fusible grid that I used, and it made it very bulky, but that was also a thicker grid, a thicker interfacing. So try it out both ways if you want to. I do recommend that you go ahead and snip all of these. So then I'm gonna pause the video again. I'm gonna go through and snip all of these, and then we'll be right back and we will sew the other direction. See you in just a minute. Okay, so we have sewn all of one direction. I have clipped all of my little intersections, I guess. So now we're going to sew the other direction. So what we want to do is we're going to fold it the same way we did last time. We're going to go this way. So if you've ever locked seams before, you're going to, when you do this, you want one going up and one going down on this, where we clipped them so that they would do this and they will fit nicely. This first was a little bit trickier getting it to lay. So all across this seam, there should not, you'll be able to feel it. There should not be a gap and there should not be any overlap in either. They should butt up. You've got one seam going up and one seam going down. They should butt up right next to each other. And if you need to, you can always kind of open this seam up and check it and make sure that your corner here all the way across is going to line up just right. And again, I've gotten to where I can feel this. It doesn't take too terribly long to where you get where you can just, I'm just going to run my fingers down here and I can feel on every single one. And this is great practice because when you're trying to match up seams for other quilts and projects and blocks or whatever, you can learn to feel it because this is already kind of partly done for you, but you don't want to. So it's going to help you learn to feel it later on. So I'm just going to stitch this one right here. Slow this down a little bit. So I'm going to get through. That one flipped on me. Be careful. Let me get through this first seam and I'm going to stop. Now I'm going to do this next intersection. I want to make sure that it's lined up. When I press, when I'm holding it in place, I can still feel if it's still lined up or not. I'm just going to, so you want to go kind of slow. I'm just want to get through that one so I know it's locked in place. And I'm going to set the next one. I can feel on this end it's not, so I'm going to line it up a little bit better. There we go. All the way across, all my fingers right here are telling me that it's lined up correctly. If it's not, just make adjustments. Again, we're just going to get through that seam. Do want my needle to stop down if you have that option. I should have already turned that on for this. Okay. The more you do this, the faster it'll go because the more you'll get used to it. And after this first one, it's usually easier on the subsequent ones. See, now I don't even have to stop it. I can already feel that it's in place and work ahead. Be very careful with this interfacing. It's not the end of the world again, but it does tear. I just pulled a little bit too hard on the interfacing part right here, and it did pull just a little bit, stretch it out. If you get a hole or something in it, it still works. Just try to kind of push it, not push it, but place it back where it should be and just stitch over it. Once this project's done, you will never notice it. But just be extra gentle. Okay. So now we have gone all the way across here. All of our seams match. We're going to make sure that we're good. All of our seams match up. All of our fabric was caught like it should have been. Then we're just going to fold it over and do the next one just the same. Now, because this seam right here is already going up, we're going to push the top one down this time. So, because we want it to be the same all the way across here. So we're going to let it continue to go up, and the next one's going to go down. And we're just going to line up this first one. Make sure that you want to make sure that this is pulled out completely and that it doesn't get caught up in your other stitches. And again, that's another one of those things you should be able to feel. Once you get the hang of this, you'll be able to feel there's extra bulk in there. We're just going to do the next one. Again, because I've done this so much, I can kind of feel ahead. Now, I do want to stop it and make sure that I've got everything pulled under the way it's supposed to be, all the way down to this other end, so we don't have any issues. I want that to go down. This, oh yeah, I'm wrong. That one's going to go up. The bottom one, the one underneath is going to go up. This one's going to go, top is going to go down. I got them confused. It's easy for that to happen. Even though I'm used to doing this, I'm going to stop every couple and make sure that I'm still good. Make sure we're good. We're going to finish this row up. Okay, so I'm going to pause this again, and I'm going to finish sewing the other direction, and then we'll go from there. Okay? Be back in just a minute. Okay, so I now have this sewn completely together. All you're going to do now is you're just going to, once you've got it sewn both directions, you're just going to press it. Now, if you're going to want your silicone sheet on there again, because this is still the glue part and you don't want it getting on your iron. So you're just going to press all of this flat and it's going to be all nice and neat. And you have your perfect grid here. So you're going to do this for as many panels as you have made, and you can keep adding to this. So you're just going to sew each direction on every single one. And then when you've got more than one, when you get to the point of you're ready to sew the panels together, there's these little crosses on each corner, and you're going to line those up with each other. So this panel will line up with those little plus signs, crosses, whatever, on the little marks on the next panel. And you're going to just sew it together like you normally would. Okay. So we may go over that next week once I have another panel finished. But this is what your homework is for this week, is to get all of your panels sewn, or as many as you want to sew together, whatever. And again, you can do so many. If you don't like how big it is, you can keep adding to it, especially if you're doing completely scrappy like I am. And so you can just get all this done. Again, so your main things are: make sure that your fabric is laying flat when you fold it over and that it's all tucked in there nicely. I had a couple that were not. It's not the end of the world. You just pick it out. Just be careful when you're picking it out. You want to use as consistent of a seam allowance as you possibly can. If it's not exactly a quarter of an inch, that's okay. Just be consistent as possible. And then you're just gonna go one direction, then you're gonna snip it. If you accidentally snip it past that seam, again, you're gonna fold it and sew it the other direction anyway, so it should catch. But you do kind of want to keep it on the outside of that seam. But again, not the end of the world if you do happen to catch it going the other direction. Just string here. So again, that is your homework for tonight, for this week. I will be back next week and we'll work on kind of wrapping this up. I'm going to let y'all decide how to quilt it. You can quilt it in a grid. You can quilt it across these corners like this, go in each direction on the diagonal. You can do every other diagonal. You can do however you wanted it to. You can throw on a long arm, meander it. It's totally up to you. Get creative. But for now, this is where we're gonna stop for today. And I will see y'all back next week with kind of the final things that need to be done. So I hope you'll have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.